Okay, tonight's daf might be the most difficult daf in the Masechta, possibly. It's certainly up there. We're learning Lil Nishbas Daba, Freda Bas, by the son of Levi. It's the mother of our Choshva Daf Yomiite, Avi Rosenzweig, and discuss his Torah and our Torah in the Sham Shav and Aliyah. Okay. Let's see. Let's outside. Let's give you the Hakdama. See what we saw yesterday, and bring it in today in what we have so far. We said that we know there's two stages to marriage. There's a stage of Erison and the Suin. So now, if she's in her father's house, and now the women are found after the Erison, he tainas the woman were there beforehand. The father tainas the woman came after the Erison, and she's entitled to a ksuba, right? Then the chiyuv is on the father to go ahead and approve it. Conversely, if the woman come to after the suin in the Baal's house, then it's on the Baal to go ahead and prove that they were there right before. We said that this Mishnah was in conjunction, in line with the Mishnah we saw in Daf Yud Beis. A woman gets married, and she's found not to be a basula, and she tells the husband, "You're right, I'm not. However, my basulim were taken away before you went ahead and after, not you when you married me, right? I was, at that point in time, right? When you married me, after the marriage, I was an onus, but when you married me, I wasn't, right? And what's the din there? You said it was machloikis between Rabbi Gamliel and Rabbi Yeshua. What was the machloikis? Do you go after the cheskos of the guf, or do you go after the cheskos of the money? What's the cheskos of guf? A woman is born a basula. That's the chazaka. She has a cheskos guf. Says Rabbi Gamliel, you go after the cheskos of guf. She is believed. She has a chazaka that she was a basula. Right? She has a chazaka. She was a basula. Says Rabbi Yeshua, loy nipior nechayim. We don't live through a mouth, but the cheskos money. You want to be might see money from me. You want to take the ksuba, right? Then I might see mechaber right. Meaning the onus is upon you to bring it because the cheskas mom is stronger. So apparently, our Mishnah, right, would be we have two cases in the Mishnah. In the first case, it's incumbent upon the father to bring a raya. In the second case, it's incumbent upon the Baal to bring a raya, right, depending where it was. We asked the Mishnah is not consistent with any one of those tanoim, right? Why? The ratio is mashma. You go after the cheskas money, right? You go after the cheskas money. You want to go ahead. You don't say she was a basula. You don't give the cheskas what she wasn't a mum. In this case, the chazaka's guf is that she didn't have any woman because people are born without woman, right? A woman's born a basula. A woman's born without woman. So the cheskas, if you go after the cheskas a guf, it should be upon him to bring a raya, but the father has to bring a raya. That's the chayr like Rabbi Yeshua that you go after the money. The father wants to take. He wants right. That the max at the money, the Baal has the money. Your father, you want to take the money, you bring the raya. Your cheskas a guf, a woman doesn't count. Conversely, when she's now in the house of the husband, right, and she's found to have it, then we say it's on the husband to bring a raya. So you go after the cheskas a guf. That's the according to Rabbi Gamliel, right? That's according to Rabbi Gamliel. How do you reconcile the two? Now we want the Mishnah usually to be right, so we're going to have three turutzim in the Mishnah, have lamsha in the Mishnah. The first teretz is Rebbe Elazar. This is what we learned yesterday. Tavra, the Mishnah is broken. Misha shanazu, le shanazu. In other words, Rashi learned both the same. If you go like Rabbi Yeshua, in both cases, the father's going to have to bring the raya. Even after the suin, even in the sefer, the father would have to bring a raya. If you go after a Gamliel, even in the Reisha, the husband would have to bring a raya. Why? Because you go after the cheskas aguf. That was the first teretz how to explain the Gemara. Again, Misha shanazu l'shanazu. Now, we saw clearly in Daf Yud Beis that the halacha was like Rabbi Gamliel. The halacha was like Rabbi Gamliel. Therefore, the following two terutzim we're going to have from Rava and Rav Ashi go according to Rabbi Gamliel, and we have to fartaich the Reisha. If we go according to Rabbi Gamliel, why don't we go and give to the Cheskas Haguf in the Reisha, saying that the father who has the Cheskas Haguf has to bring the Raya? Why does he have to bring the Raya? If you go according to Gamliel, the Baal should have to bring a Raya in both cases. So we have the first teretz according to the two cases, and now we're going to see a teretz of Rava and a teretz of Rav Ashi to answer up in the Reisha. How can that come out according to Rabbi Gamliel? How can that come out according to Rabbi Gamliel? That even though we're going after the cheskes haguf, in that case, it's a comment upon the father who has the cheskes haguf to bring a raya. Okay, that's the foreshadow of the what's the kam, and that's the easy part of today's daf. That's the easy part of today's. That's not too bad. So we're up to Ayin Hey Yom Beis, Ayin Hey Yom Beis, and we are, I'd say, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 lines down. Amar Rava, says Rava, Loi Tema, do not say that Rabbi Yeshua Lo Yazal Basa Chazaka the Gufa Klal. In other words, you're going after the Cheskas Mami, do not make a mistake and think that Rabbi Yeshua does away with the Cheskas Aguf, that he never counts the Cheskas Aguf. Guys, we're going to see he counts the Cheskas Aguf where there's nothing against him. In other words, we go to Cheskas Aguf. Ela ki azlo Rabbi Yeshua Basa Cheskas the Gufa. Where does he go after Cheskas Agufa? Heichadika Cheskas Nemoina. When doesn't he go after Cheskas Aguf? When there's a Cheskas Nemoina opposite it. Aval Heichadaleka Cheskas Nemoina, where there's no Chazak of Mammon opposite, right? Also, Rabbi Yeshua Basa Cheskas the Gufa, then he'll go after the Chazak of the Guf. In other words, in our case, the reason why the woman is not believed to say that it was after your bad luck that I was in a basula when you married me is because you're going to the Cheskas Mammon of holding on to the money. What about if it's only cheskas guf? It's not a monetary situation. There's no chazaka opposite it. For example, the case of guys mitzayra. One of the tsaras is called a beheres. A beheres, the halacha is if it has a white spot and then the seir grew, then it's tamei. I think if the seir comes first, it's not. Says the Gemara, the Tanya. In beheres koydel the seir, lavan. If the beheres came before the white hair, in other words, the white splotch of skin came first, and then the seir came afterwards, then tamei. However, if seir lovin koydel beheres, if the seir lovin came first, then tahar. Suffolk, if you don't know what came first, tamei. Rabbi Yeshua mekeya. Rabbi Yeshua says keya, just like by mitzayra. Once it gets guys keya, it gets dimmer, it's tahar. Hu hadin by Suffolk, it's tahar. Why? Because you go after the chazaka as a guf. That's not a mitzayra. A chazaka, guys, we're proving that only that what? That Rabbi Yeshua goes after the chazaka of guf when it's not go ahead and comes against another chazaka. So, guys, it's a suffix whether this guy's a mitzayra or not. We have a cheskas that what beforehand that he was a tahardika guy. So you see Rabbi Yeshua in a situation where there's no chazaka connected it goes after Torah, right? That's all we're proving. This is like a total digression. So now, Rabbi Yeshua Makeya, my Keya, what does Keya mean? Amarava Keya Tahar. It's like just like Keya is Tahar, so too, of course, we're miming on the chazaka who hadin by the seir where masupik whether the lovin came first or the beheres came first. Okay, now Rava now is going to give a teretz to the Mishnah. Again, what does Rava not like about the teretz of Rabbi Elazar? The Mishnah is going according to both Rabbi Yeshua, the Reisha, and the Seifa according to Rabbi Gamliel. We don't paskin like Rabbi Yeshua. So the next two terutzim, both Rava and Rav Ashi, will be solely going according to Rabbi Gamliel, meaning you go after the Cheskes Haguf, and we're going to have to see why in the Reisha of our Mishnah, when the moment took place in her house, when she was in her father's house, that we do not go after the Cheskes Haguf. In other words, there must be a reisa, there must be some type of detriment that's holding out against this, right? That's basically what it is. So Rav Amma says the following: Reisha, the Reisha, which we have to answer up, is kan nimsu, the kan hayu. Guys, where did you find the woman? When she was by her father or by the husband? By the father. So kan nimsu, you found them by the father. Kan hayu, that's where they were, meaning they were there all along, even before the Erison, and therefore what? It's upon the father to prove that what? It wasn't there. Seifa, now Seifa, who has to prove it, guys? The Baal. Why? Not kan nimsu, but kan hayu. Where did they show up? By the Baal's house. So in other words, it's according to Rabbi Gamliel, guys. And it says Rabbi Gamliel, there is a chazaka that weakens you. Guys, in the case, why do we have to answer up? We have to answer up the Reisha, right? The Reisha is who's bringing the raya? The husband, the father. The father has the chazaka backing him up. That chazaka is weakened. You know why it's weakened? Because in his house, you're finding the mum. So good she had a cheskas guf beforehand. But right now, in your jurisdiction, you're finding what? The mum. That weakens the chazaka. Look at the Lashon of Rashi, guys. Let's see Rashi, left side, about 8-9 lines up, before it gets wide. Rabbi Mahada look be kula Reb Gamliel. Rabbi's job, he wants to go ahead and establish the whole mission like Rabbi Gamliel. Because we established in the first parak in Daf Yud Beis, the halacha is like right that she has a chesed that she's a basula and she's believed she's an menace. Good. La'olam chazaka the gufa adif. Guys, that's the key. The chazaka the guf is adif. So the question is the reisha. So why does the father have to bring garaya? He has the chesed guf that she was without mumim. For reisha and reisha time amai mishum the kivin the beis avia nimsu hamumim. Here's the key words. Isra chaskase da'av. It weakens. It makes it worse. The chazaka of the father. The ikalamema, there's a svara to say, kan hayu koidem erisin, that it was there before erisin. Okay? So in other words, fellas, outside, guys, what does a chazaka do? A chazaka is a way of being mevarer suffik. A chazaka, roiv, suffik. These are chazaka. These are ways when you come into a shaila of a doubt, what vehicle can we use to ascertain as to exactly what the din is? So one of the ways to establish the chazaka, right? Or if it's mamanis, keep it on the status quo. You have the money, let the money stay by you, right? You have a cheskas haguf. Let your previous position remain. So remain a basula. I'd love to say that. But here the shaila is coming up in this jurisdiction. That go ahead. The fact that it came here, kan nimsu, will say kan hoyu. That's myri the chazaka. That goes in and weakens the chazaka. Conversely, when she's by the husband and he finds it there, the svara is she was always on that chazaka, and here's it just kan nimsu kan namsu. That's when it happened. It happened after Nisuin, way after Erisin. You can't tie the mekach tois. You are tying that what? When you were mekadisha 12 months before, that there was mumin before. And then why all of a sudden it's showing up now? There's a svara to say, keep the chazaka of what? Of the guf. It's a nice svara. It's a good svara. Good. So now we have two terutzim how to answer up the Mishnah. Even though the ratio of the Mishnah, apparently the onus is on the father. I, like Rabbi Gamliel, says Rabbi Lazar, that's Rabbi Yeshua. What? Rabbi Yeshua goes after, when you have a chazaka of guf, chazaka of money, keep the money, it's stronger. Says Gamliel, the safe of the Mishnah, the husband has to prove it. Cheskas haguf is stronger. Rabbi says it's totally contrary to Gamliel. We don't pass like Rabbi Yeshua. It's like Rabbi Gamliel. If it's like Rabbi Gamliel, and you go after the chazaka of the guf, why in the first case does the father have to go ahead and bring a proof? After all, he has the chazaka that there was no mumim. What's the answer? Since you found the mumim over there, the svara is to say that's probably was there all along, even before the erisin, and therefore he can tie the mekach twice. Very geschmack. Okay. Says the Gemara, right? Okay. The nichnasul l'rishus habal. If once she goes into the rishus of the Baal, habal tzarich lehevi raya sha'at shaloi tisares hoya b'mumim. So in other words, guys, let's go through our 12 months have passed. He has to bring a proof that when was the mumim there? Before he was makadisha 12 months before. Hoya b'mumim. V'hoyu mecher mecher twice. Ad shaloi tisares in, good. Misha tisaris loy. But what happens if you bring a raya that if the eris, that in other words, there's testimony that if the erisin there was mumin. 6 months into the marriage, he brings Adim that there were mumin there. What are we going to say? Who's believed? The father's belief. In other words, his raya that he's bringing if the erisin is not a good raya, right? Guys, you got it. In other words, what's the case? Second case of the Mishnah. He married her. I give you number 12. He marries her. He's in a rishus. It's incumbent upon him to bring a raya that these women were there before the kedushin. What happens if he brings a raya that they were in the father's house and there were women? It's not a good raya, correct? She gets married in September. In January, he brings proof that, look, there's mumim there. He's not believed. Where the mumim found? Whose house? No. 6 months, she's still living by the father. From the Mishnah, you see that it's not contingent upon where you find it. It's contingent upon when you find it, not the location. Because after all, she's still in her father's house, and we're saying what? That he's not believed. Why don't we say kam ninsa kam hayu? That's the kasha by asking another. Kasha. Let's see it inside again one more time. Esavi Abaya says Abaya. Nichnasul b'shus habal. Once she gets nesuin, now after 12 months she's with the husband, and he finds mumim. Habal tzarich levi raya. The Baal has to bring a raya. She'at shalei tisaris hayu b'mumim elu. That before 12 months before, by Erisin, before he was Makadisha, the mumim were there, and it's a mekach tais. Actually, tisaris in, he has to bring a raya before the Erisin. Mishris aris loy. Even though what? She's still in daddy's house. The amai. Why, if you say your svara of kam nimsu kam hayu, lema kam nimsu v'kan hayu? So l'chayra, Rabbi is asking a great question on Rava. Guys, good? Amalei. So Rava says to Abaya. Amalei. Rava says to Abaya. Mishinis arsu. Nis arsu. I'll tell you why. Even though you go after the cheskas haguf, the iklamema chazaka ain't adam shoisa because elam came boitkai. A person will not drink from a cup unless he's boided. Okay. Now, we have a chazaka, right? What's the chazaka? She doesn't have mum. We have a reisa in the chazaka. What's the reisa in the chazaka? With kanimsa kamayu. This is after erisin. We have another chazaka that a guy's not getting married unless he checks it out. So that reestablishes that what? That the onus is upon him. So that's the difference. Amalei mishnah arsa mishum diklanema chazaka ein adam shoyse b'kais. A person won't literally drink from a cup, won't get married. Elam came bakoy. V'hai ra'ah. He saw it. Then who, and he accepted it. Guys, good. Very good. Beautiful svaras. Now here's the question. So if you say that's svara, what difference should it be between erisin and not erisin? Yehachi actually tisares nami. Right? Actually tisares nami. But he must, in other words, if you're telling me, guys, he checks it out, what does it help to say that the mumim were there before the erisin? Even if the mumim were there before the erisin, he's not going to get married. In other words, you have to bring a proof that the mumim were there before erisin. Why would you say the mumim were there before erisin? The guy's going to go ahead. We have a chazaka. He's not getting married until he checks it out. So that breaks any possibility of bringing a proof that they were there before erisin because he checked it out. So Ella, what do you have to say? I mean, on chazaka in other mafayis b'mumim. We have a chazaka, another chazaka, that he would not go ahead and accept the mum, and therefore what? They must have not been there. So it says the Marhachanami even after erisin chazaka in other mafayis b'mumin, so he must have not been there. So what's the difference between before erisin and after erisin? Again, you bring your raya. The Baal has to bring a raya before erisin. What does it help? L'chayra, we say in other mafayis b'mumin. He's not going to be mafayis b'mumin. So even after erisin, it should be okay. Ella, what do you have to say the following? Mission is arsa. The reason why what? It is not mishum ikatarti. There's two reasons to believe the father. One, chazaka hemid aguf al cheskasai. Two, the chazaka in adam shaisa b'kais elam kein badkai. V'hai rav v'nefayasu. In other words, you have the cheskas aguf that there was no moment. Secondly, there's the chazaka that he must have checked it out and there were no moment. So what are you going to say? Chazaka in adam mefayas b'mum. You have a chazaka that what? That he never would have married her. There's moment. Have a chada. There's only one reason to believe. The majority is only reason to believe him that what? That he wouldn't have married he wouldn't have accepted his moment. Chada b'makom tarti b'makom that chazakos haguf that there were no women, and Satan's chazaka that what? A person won't drink from a kois unless he checked it out. The chada b'makom tarti lo yaminan. Now that's when mission is arsa. Guys, we're explaining the following difference. Why, when it's in the husband's rishus, why does it not help? What's the difference between before erisin and after erisin? So the answer is after erisin, it's 2 versus 1. After erisin 1, she has a cheskas aguf, and 2, he never would have married unless he checked it out. What are you going to say? He wouldn't accept the mum? It's 2 versus 1. Good. That's after erisin. What about before erisin? Oh, so now actually tisares before erisin, hemen aguf al cheskaso lo yikle meimar. Right? You can't be maimed the chazaka what on the guf. Right? Why? Again, before erisin, you can't maimed chazaka ikle meimar. What are you going to say? Mayika chazak. Yeah, one more time. Actually, this aris hemida gufal cheskasoy loy ikalameimar. To go if before erisin, you can't be maimed on the cheskas ikalameimar. Of course, they're there now. He's bringing Adam guys that they were there, right? He's bringing Adam, so there's no what's in the call. There's no chesed guf anymore. My ikka chazaka they know mishreisa b'kois elam came but goy, but high rough of in the fires who other rabba chazaka in other mafayis b'mumin, right? Behem in mamral cheskasai. In other words, once before everything, you lost. There's no chesed guf anymore. Why? Again, there's no chesed guf. There's no chesed guf. Why is no chesed guf over here? Why is no chesed guf over here? Actually, Tesaris aval heicha shevi Eden sharo b'achli Tesaris. Oh yeah, that's why. He bought Eden that there's no Eden. So now therefore there's no what? There is no chesed guf. You have Eden before, guys. When Adam said before Erison they were there, so she doesn't have a chesed guf. What the only possibility you could say is he accepted that, right? In other words, the person doesn't go ahead and get married unless he checked it out. So he must have checked it out. And even though they were there beforehand, he accepted them. Guys, one more time. You don't have a cheskes aguf because Adam came and said those women were there. The only reason to do away with that would be the chazaka that he accepted them. But on the other hand, you have another raya that a person would accept women. Good. So therefore, what are you left with? You're left with the money being in the rishus of the husband. Therefore, the father would have to go ahead and bring a raya. Okay, let's go through what we got so far. One more time. We have in our Mishnah. We have two shittas. The first one, the onus is on the father because you go after the cheskes money, and that like Rabbi Yeshua, according to Rebbe Laza. And the second one, it's on the Baal because you're going after the cheskes aguf, like according to Rabbi Gamliel. That was Tafa Mishnah Shanazu. That was Rebbe Laza explained the Mishnah. Rabbi had a problem with that because we pass like Rabbi Gamliel. So you must go after cheskes aguf. Okay? Yet our Mishnah has a case where you don't go after cheskes aguf, right? The first case. Right? Why don't you go to cheskes aguf? Because cheskes aguf, you have Adam coming. I'm saying you don't go after cheskes aguf because kam nimsa kam hayu. We say, you found it in Abrishus. Since you found it in Abrishus, therefore what? Okay. That's Rabbi's teretz. There's a picture, a kasha on Rabbi's teretz. If you say the svar of kam nimsa kam hayu, what's the difference of the raya before Erison after Erison? After all, it's found in the Baal's house. So if you go after the only place location where it's found, there should not be a chilik whether he brings a raya before Erison after Erison. Says the Gemara, after Erison it's 2 versus 1, right? You have the cheskes aguf and you have the fact that he wouldn't have accepted unless, right? And you have one that the person would accept a woman. Before Erison, he has Eidim that there's no cheskes aguf. So you have 1 versus 1. You have he accepted it. In other words, he must have been baidik and accepted it, versus the chazaka, he doesn't accept it. Therefore, you left those chazakas canceling. It's out. You keep on the cheskas money. Then you keep it on the status quo. A third teretz, also according to Rabbi Gamliel, is Rav Ashi. Also according to Rabbi Gamliel. Okay, now this is the third teretz. Rav Ashi says, Reisha is now outside. Let's do it outside. This girl is still by her father's house. Good. She's an Ira. Let's say the husband has to pay up the ksuba. Who's getting the money? Father. Father's getting the money, right? If the Nisuin, who's getting the money? She is. Says Rav Ashi, when there's a cheskes aguf help, that's when she gains, not when he gains. In the Reisha, the halacha is like Rabbi Gamliel, that you always go to the cheskes aguf. But when you go to the cheskes aguf, when the person who has the chazaka is gaining. In the Reisha, when she's in daddy's house on an Ira and she's getting married, once he proves that the mum came after the Erison and they were Skadish, now he's divorcing her, she has a ksuba. Who collects it? Father. Chesed aguf doesn't help there. Seifa, where it's Nesuin. After Nesuin, she's getting it. That's Rav Ashi's teretz. So Vashi Amar Reisha Manal Abba Biyatcha. The Seifa Manali Biyatcha. Easy teretz. Okay. Eser Ravacha the Rav Avila Rav Ashi. Now, Rav Meir said in the Mishnah that Mum Sheba Galoi, he can't taina, right? And even mummin that what or beseser, you can have kroivim check it out in the what in the bathhouse, whether they were there or not. That's the chachamim. Now, however, moide ramei to the chachamim, the mummin haroy lavoy ima mibeis aviyah, when mummin that possibly could have come from the beis aviyah, she'ala av lehevi raya, that it's on the father to go ahead and bring a raya. V'mai man libiyatchahu. Once she's in what? Why does the father have to bring a raya? After all, the money is going to go to her after Nisuin. In other words, after Nisuin, if it's possibility that the woman came in with her, then we might that what that the father has to bring a raya. Good. Now, why does father bring a raya? Is as far to say the woman happened in the father's house. Good. Right now, but who's going to get the money? She is. So it's kasha on Ravashi. If you tell me you go after cheskes aguf and it's contingent upon who gets the money or not, over here you're going to cheskes like you're going after. You're saying that the father has to bring a raya. Why does he have to bring a raya? She's getting the money. She's getting the money. There's no hachamay skin to be seris. She's speaking here with a woman that has an extra finger. She has an extra yaser. She has an extra finger. In other words, there's no suffix that what that it was always there. You know, it was always there. But it was that was around from the beginning of time, and therefore you'd be moida that the father. Now, furthermore, you say my raya, see what raya could you bring, guys, right? Right, it grew after the sin not happening like that. It says the roy in the fire suit. The raya would be what that he saw it. Raya the roy in the fire suit that he saw it. Okay. So those are the three ways to go ahead and answer at the Mishnah. Again, two ways in the Mishnah. Okay, what do we get from this whole Gemara, from this whole dialogue? According to Rabbi Lazar, guys. According to Rabbi Lazar, the first teretz, if you're passing like Rabbi Yeshua, you're always going to go after the chazaka of money. When it comes keneged chazakas aguf. According to Gamliel, you're always going to go after cheskes aguf. Good. That was the psak. We're going to now take this dialogue of these two and apply it to a case in Bab Mitzia, a Chashmish B'dika case. And in the first teretz, we're going to say that we want to establish it according to Rabbi Yeshua. Now, this is a problem. In other words, sometimes the Gemara initially starts off knowing in the end you're not going to end up in the way you're supposed to end up. Why? Shmuel openly paskins in the sugi Daf Yud Beis, in the sugi of I thought she was a psula. He openly paskins like Rabbi Gamliel. So how can in this sugya possibly go that he's passing like Rabbi Yeshua? But we're going to go ahead and go through a whole sugi of Gemara based upon that premise. Good. So here's the case, guys. Listen up. Here's the case. We're making a transaction over here. Reuven and Shimon. Okay, let's give Reuven and Shimon. Okay, Reuven owns the chamor, and Shimon owns the para. Reuven owns the now. They want to go ahead and want to barter one for the other. So here's the way the transaction is taking place. Reuven's doing Mashicha on the para of Shimon, and as soon as he does that, wherever the chamor of Reuven is, it belongs to Shimon. Even if it's in the simta, whatever, the hilchos of kinyanim, it's going to belong to Shimon. Now, Shimon does not have to make a kinyan. Automatically, with the Mashicha, the drawing of the para into the rishus of Reuven, right? The Reuven's chamor will be what? Okay, now this happens wherever it is. It's in Reuven's rishus. Good. Reuven goes ahead, does Mashiach on the para. Shimon comes to collect his chamor, and the chamor is dead. When did it die? When did it die? In other words, Reuven's taina, when I did the para, it was alive. Didn't stop because of your field was flooded. You got messed up. Shimon taina's no. When you went ahead, and schlepped the para, at that time already, it was showing tight, and the deal's off. Okay? Now, who has the cheskes haguf over here? The Baal Chamar. In other words, what's the cheskes haguf over here? That the Chamar's alive. Guys, the Chamar's alive. That's the cheskes haguf over here. The Chamar's alive. Who has the cheskes money over here? Shimon. Now, even though the money now is in Reuven's rishus because he has the para, you say, in other words, like this. There's something called the cheskes marikama. When I'm holding on to this bottle, right? Because it's my bottle, I'm holding on to it. But if it's a shaila that how it got to me, then I don't have a chazaka. So over here, the para is in Ruvain's rishus, but Ruvain's not a muchzik in the para because that's contingent upon what? That the chamar being alive at the time. In other words, if the case involved establishes the chazaka, we don't say that. So who does the para belong to? Shimon. That's the owner. So again, let's go through the case, and then we'll see how it will apply over here. Good? And how it will apply over here. We have a transaction taking place. Ruvain owns a chamar, Shimon owns a para. They make a deal. As soon as Ruvain is kind of the chamar, Shimon will be kind of Ruvain rent kind of the para, Shimon will be kind of the chamar. Good? Ruvain does his job. He makes a kinyan meshicha on the para. Shimon goes to collect his chamar. Whoopie-doo, it's dead. When did it die? Ruvain tainis after I did Mashiach, Shimon times before you did Mashiach. What's the din? Now, if you go like Rabbi Gamliel, and if you hold, you go after what? The Baal Chamar, then Shimon has to bring a raya. However, if you hold the Baal Chamar has to bring a raya, right? That's because the chazaka of money of Shimon is stronger than Ruvain. So if Shmuel would paskin that the Baal Chamar has to bring a raya, that means he must hold the chazaka of money of Shimon is stronger than the chazaka of Ruvain. Guys, one more time. It's good because guys, one more time. Well, again, the money works that I do also. Same. They're all moment cases. What do you? There's a goof here. There's a goof. The chamar is cheskes goof that it was alive. It was alive. Okay, so now what are we paralleling? We want to do the following parallel. We're saying that depending upon who's the onus of proof in the case of the chamar and the par is on, we ascertain whether what's stronger, the cheskas money or the cheskas aguf. Good? And then we go back and say, well, if you hold the cheskas money is stronger, then you must hold like Rabbi Yeshua. And if you hold the cheskas aguf is stronger, you hold like Rabbi Gamliel. Good? Guys, Shmuel paskins like Rabbi Gamliel. So what would you expect him to say? Who has to bring the proof? Ruvain or Shimon? You say Shimon, because Ruvain has the cheskas aguf, that the animal was alive. Shmuel is going to say the onus is on what? On Ruvain, the Baal Chamar. Okay, so the Gemara is going to entertain that thought, even though Shmuel paskins like Rabbi Gamliel. The Gemara is going to entertain the thought just to make it hard on us. That's the whole reason the Gemara, just to give us a hard daf Gemara. I hope this is being taped. And even though in the end it knows it's not going to be true, but we're going with the assumption. So with that hakdama, let's begin. Says the Gemara. Rabbi Yehuda Shmuel. Says Rabbi Yehuda Shmuel. Hamachlif par b'chamar. Someone is interchanging doing chalip in a par of a chamar. Umoshech bala chamar who has the kinyan cheskas aguf as hapara that the right cheskas money. So Ruvain owns the chamar. He's doing Meshicha on Shimon's para. Hispik bala para limshek as a chamar. Shimon did not get a chance to take the chamar into his rishus. At shemesa chamar. Al bala chamar, that's the cheskis haguf lehevi raya to bring a proof. Show you chamar kayim that his chamar was alive. B'shas Meshicha's para. Okay, so the onus is one, and guess, and where's the problem? Vitana tuna kala. Vitana tuna, and you know the raya to this case is kala. Is our case of the married woman. Now, which case, guys? We had two cases. One where the mum came in when she was living by daddy in the Reisha, or two, the mum took place when what? When she was by her husband. Which one is it? So now, guys, watch. If it's like the Reisha, then it's like Rabbi Yeshua. Good? That's the Havmina. That it's going to Rabbi Yeshua of the Reisha. And with Sushtelling, just like the father has to bring a raya, he has the cheskas haguf. Guys, listen up. Just like the father has the cheskas haguf, that his daughter did not have any woman, and nonetheless the onus is upon him. Hu hadin the Baal Chamar has the onus of bringing a raya, despite the fact that he has the cheskas haguf because the chamar was alive. So therefore, Tanatuna, that is the tzushtel. That is the tzushtel. Says the Gemara. The Tanatuna, Kala. Hi, Kala. Which Kala are we speaking about? Amid base. Elema Kala base avia. If you're going to tell me the Kala when she's in her father's house, and what's the tzushtel, guys, one more time? Just like the father has the cheskes haguf, that is what? No mumim, and he has to bring a raya. Who hadin what? The balachamor who has the cheskes chai has to bring a raya. Midami is a comparable. Hasam over there, Maisi Avraya Umafik. The father brings a raya, and what does he do? He collects the ksuba. Hacha Maisi Balachamor raya Umukim. Over here, he brings a raya, and what does he do? He keeps the para. So it's not a very good sushtel. Hanatuna means the following. L'chayru, you have a very exact carbon copy in our Mishnah to Shmuel's din of what? Of Machlef Par v'Chamar. It's not a good sushtel. If you're going to tell me the case of the Reisha, the case of the father bringing the proof, true, he has the Chesed Zaguf to bring the proof, but he has a very strong one. He's going ahead and his Chesed Zaguf is taking away. Over here, his Chesed Zaguf is what is just keeping it in his Rishus, because he's just keeping the para. So Amar Ababa, you're right. Chalo bebeis chamia. You know what the raya is? Not from the Reisha, but from the Sefer. Okay, so the Baal is bringing proof to keep his money. Guys, the Baal is bringing proof to keep his money. So too, the Baal HaChamar brings a raya to the para. In other words, this would be according to Rabbi Gamliel. Guys, like Rebbe Laza, going back to the original teretz, if the husband is bringing a raya, that means the cheskes haguf is stronger. You know what the Gemara did, guys? It just switched gears totally. Look what the Gemara. Look at me. Here's what the Gemara did, guys. We're going according to Rebbe Laza. Rebbe Laza's teretz was in the first case is Rabbi Yeshua, in the second case is Rabbi Gamliel. So we thought that Tushtel was, cheskes haguf, you the father, cheskes haguf, that she has no mum, have to bring a raya. So the balachamor, cheskes that it's alive, has to bring a raya. Says the Gemara, that's not a good sushtel. Because one, you're being a raya and taking money. The other one, you're bringing a raya and keeping money. Okay, so let's switch gears. Case number 2. What's case number 2? Where the mumim were in what? In the rishus of the husband. Who's bringing a raya? Who has to bring a raya? The husband. Who has the cheskes money? The husband. Who has the cheskes haguf? The father. So you see now we're switching gears. So now we must sushtel that what? The case of, now what's the tushtel, the balachamar? What's the tushtel over here? He's the cheskes haguf. So says the Gemara. So just like the Baal brings a proof to keep his money, so too the Baal Chamar has to bring a proof to keep the para. Guys, that will bring the raya. One more time. So Amar Vaba Kala beis chamia. Right? So what's the tushtel? Just like the Baal brings a proof to keep his money, so to the Baal Chamar, he brings a proof to keep what? The para. And that will be the tushtel. Says the Rabbi Kati Loidami. Hasam Baal Maisi Raya, Umar Lechaske Dav. Over there, the Baal Mammon is being a raya, and he's weakening the chazaka out of the father who had a cheskes haguf. Over here, the Baal Chamar, he's going ahead, he's bringing a raya, right? And the cheskes haguf, why does he have to prove that? Guys, if it's according to Rabbi Gamliel, you go after the cheskes haguf. Good. So what's the tushtel? This is a very important tushtel. What's your tushtel? Just like the Baal has a raya to keep his money, so too the Baal HaChamar has to bring a raya to keep his money. Why in the world would the Baal HaChamar have to keep money? If you go according to a Gamliel, what does a Gamliel hold? What's stronger? Chesed haguf. Who has the Chesed haguf? The father. So why would the father, if that's the case, why the Baal has what? In other words, the Baal HaChamar, in the case of Machal Baal HaChamar, he has the Chesed haguf. Why would he have to bring a raya? Bishleim, the husband has to bring a raya, because it's going according to Rabbi Gamliel, and the father, he only has the cheskes money, and the cheskes guf is stronger, so it's contingent upon the Baal to bring it. Mashe ein kain. In our case, the Machleb Bar Chamar, you're asking the Baal, according to Rabbi Gamliel, that the Baal, who the cheskes guf, has to establish his cheskes guf. Makes no sense. So right now, it doesn't, this tushtel that you wanted to make, Tanatuna, Ta'amishta, a Machleb case of Shmuel's case of Machleb Bar Chamar, that the Baal Chamar has to bring a raya, failed according to the teretz of Rebbe Laza, that would say Rabbi Yeshua and say Rabbi Gamliel. Allah, very high. I told you guys, it's cheshbon. Guys, are we in the ballpark? I'm talking a lot. Hopefully, I should have had a blackboard. I could have done this all out. Okay, let's continue. There's always some Gemaras that you can say, you do your best, and 7.5 years now, we'll get it again. And then you'll say the same thing 70 years now. You'll get it again because you don't get it. Okay. Rav Nachman by Yitzchak. Kala bebeis avia ula kedushin. You know what we're speaking about? Until now, what money were we speaking about, guys? Guys, until now, what money we're speaking about? The ksuba. Right now, we're speaking about the ksuba, right? We're speaking about taking money out. Good. What about the kesef kedushin? What about kesef kedushin? In other words, right, the father has to prove the kedushin was good in order to keep the kinyan. You know, it's going in the ratio. The father has to prove that to keep the kinyan right, and it's a right of Shmuel that the Baal Chamor must prove that the Chamor was alive to keep. In other words, it's not. This is. You're not being mitzi money. You are keeping money. But let's. What are you doing over here? He received money from what? From the husband. The husband wants to time mechach tois. He wants to take the money back. So what's the tushtel to machla par v'chamar? Just like by the Baal Chamor, he has to go ahead what and prove that what that the animal was alive before he did what Mashiach on the para to keep his money to keep the para. The father has to prove that the girl had no mumim to keep the kesef kedushin, and that would be the tushtel. So no, that helps us, right? That works. That works. But not nothing to do with ksuba. But loy tema, we don't say that is a shaila. Let's say if kesef kedushin and they never live together and he dies, does the money go back to his yarshin? But says the Gemara. Don't say that kedushin is a matana if they never get married. Kedushin was given as a matana. It's only kedushay vadai that you have to return. But kedushay tois, he might see raya in, he might see vad. Even the money that you could keep it, that's only kedushay vadai you could keep. But kedushay tois, you'd have to bring a raya. He might see raya if the father brings a raya in. Okay, so now let's just chazer riba. And then we'll stop for a second. What do we have? We have our case, our Mishnah, 2 cases, 3 terutzim, right? We have a case, the first case, we're seemingly going after the chazaka of the, clearly going after the chazaka of money. Second case, you're going after the chazaka of the guf. First case would be Rabbi Shua, second case would be Gamliel. Good? That was his teretz. Both Rava and Ravashi held it was going according to Rabbi Gamliel, and they had to answer up the first case. The answer was there was a reyes in the first case. According to Rabbi, the reyes was what? That the mum was found in the father's rishus. The reyes in the second case is what? That the cheskes money was keeping the money by the father. Those were the cases. We went ahead now and we said that this is Shmuel says that this in our Mishnah is a sushtel to the case of what? Of machla par v'chamar. Good. We're saying that what? Machla par v'chamar, it's upon the bala chamar, despite the fact that he has a cheskas guf, he has to bring a raya. So apparently it's going according to Rabbi Yeshua, not Rabbi Gamliel. Right? That was possibly going to Rabbi Yeshua and not Rabbi Gamliel. That's what we're saying. And he has to go ahead and prove it. We're saying right now that what does he do? What's the tushtel? That it's still upon the father who has the chesel saguf to bring a raya to keep the kesef kedushin. So the balachamor has to, even though he did a mashiach, it's upon him. Even though he has the cheskes saguf that the animal was alive, he'd have to prove it, and that's what we're holding. But it's still according to Rabbi Yeshua. And we didn't answer the problem. I told you that we don't pass like Rabbi Yeshua. Good. Now there are 4 stomachs in an animal. There's the keres, there's the basic crisis, the hemsis, and the keva. The basic crisis has inside of it has like sucking. It has cups. It looks like cup basic crisis. If you have a needle, it goes through the whole. If it goes through partially, it's the animal's kosher. If it goes totally through, it's a treifa. Good. Now a sale is made in the animal. You find it's a treifa. Exactly when did it become a treifa? That's the sugya, and we'll see how that goes ahead and comes into play over here. Says the Gemara. Mesave, machit shenimsa be'oive basic crisis. You find the needle in the wall of the stomach, the second stomach called the basic crisis. Mitzad echad, you only find in one side share. It's a kosher animal. It's not a treifa. Mishneit stadim. If the hole goes to both sides, treifa, and therefore you can't eat the animal, even though you had a shlita. Nimsa leva kurt dam. If you find on the hole, you find a drop of blood. I guess on the needle, find a drop of blood. It was there before the shchita, and the animal was a treifa. If you don't find on the needle a piece of blood, so in other words, this is a way of going ahead and ascertaining exactly at which point in time became a treifa. So if you find the needle, there's no dam on it, then you know it's a good animal. If you find dam on the needle, then it's not a good animal. Huglid, piyamaka. Let's say the hole has a scab on top of it. That it was 3 days before the shechita. It was a tray for 3 days before the shechita. If it's not, then then you'd have to go ahead and you'd have to bring a raya. Now, who is the cheskes of over here? We have a cheskes of that it wasn't a tray for, correct? And the cheskes and the cheskes money is the person that had the money. So over here, the moicher is the guy selling the animal. The tavach, the butcher, is lekeach. He would buy the animal and he would slaughter it up. Now, the iyav tavach. Now, according to this, who would being a raya would be on the cheskes aguf being a raya. The yav tavach dam demei, and if the lekeach, the butcher would give money, boy last raya mafik, he would have to go ahead being a raya and take it out. You're saying mitzvah mechaver raya. It should be like that. He should bring a raya and keep it. The one where the cheskes aguf, right? But my bal behema lesi raya. Let the owner of the animal bring a raya since he had the cheskes aguf v'nukim. Guys, what are we extrapolating from Shmuel? Whoever is the balachamar, if the father, bring a proof and keep the kesef kedushin, bring a proof and keep the para, bring a proof and keep the money, right? Why is that moitzim mechaber love a raya that whoever the money is by has to bring a raya, whether it's treif or not, using our halacha that we established that you go after the baal in this scenario, machlef par v'chamar, from our Mishnah, that the halacha is like Rabbi Yeshua. In the scenario, it should be on the baal haguf, the baal behema, who has the cheskes haguf, baal chamar. Let him bring a raya and keep the money. It says, no, speaking where he didn't give the money. He didn't give the money. My paska, Rashi goes crazy. What do you mean? You get guy, you're not going to, who does business like that? You get to say a case where he didn't give money. Guys, now we're going to have charata from the whole sugya. Now that you understand the whole sugya, why don't we going to go back and tell you the halakha is like Rabbi Gamliel. The halakha is not like Rabbi Yeshua, guys. Ella kiyasa Rami bar Cheskel Omar loy taisinu lahani koli dekal Yehuda achim Shmei Shmuel. Don't listen to these rules that my brother Yehuda said in the name of Shmuel. Hachiyam Shmuel. The opposite. Kol shenoilet safik b'rshusai. Anyone that the suffix arises in his rishus, alav lehevi raya. He has to bring a raya. Therefore, Shimon, the Balpara, would have to bring a raya. Shimon, guys. In other words, not Balachamar, not Reuven would have to bring a raya. Shimon would have to bring a raya. Not like you thought, a Maklapar v'chamar. Now, what's the Tanatuna then? So in other words, we just switched gears. Guys, what's happened? Maklapar v'chamar. Reuven goes ahead, and he draws the animals in Rishus. Shimon finds a dead chamar. Who has to bring a raya? Shimon. What are we going after? Cheskes money or cheskes aguf? Cheskes aguf that the chamar was alive. Like who? Like Rabbi Gamliel, that she was a basula. Yeah? We're going after Rabbi Gamliel. We switched gears. So now, what's the Tanatuna then? Good. The Tanatuna is kala. And the Tanatuna is what? Is kala. Just Shimon had a cheskes money, right? Shimon had a cheskes money. He was the Baal Para. But we pass like Rabbi Gamliel that the cheskes guf is stronger. So too Ruvain, the Baal Chamor, has a chazaka, and therefore, guys, in other words, the raya is the fact, like Rabbi Gamliel, the raya is that whoever has the cheskes haguf, right? Good. He writes. Oh, we can ask from the Machat now. Meisive Machat shenis the crisis now. Why? I might say mechaveroi. Bidlo yov tevach demei bal behemam bol asui raya mafik by my. So Seika b'shus tevach is yalid. It was in the b'shus of the tavach, right? So the tavach should have to bring a raya. So he gave money. My paska. What's the psak? That why don't we ask a kasha? Of course, Stam the milsa kamad lo yavinish zuza lo yavinish chiyusa. Stam, you're not going to give money. You're not going to go ahead and do it. Okay, let's just finish up to the mission of Chacham Maimim. Then what? Then he could time that he didn't know. Right? Amrav Nachman, the nichba and epilepsy is kamubin shebeseisa. It's not possible. He possibly could have known that she's an epileptic. Bahani mili the kfiyah leizman. That's only if she could have she knows she has epilepsy at certain times. So then she can keep it a secret. Right? But if she not kave's man, she can go ahead and have an epileptic fit at any time. Good luck with this one, Dr. Press.